You've seen it in every psychology class, every business seminar, every self-help book. Maslow's pyramid, the hierarchy of needs, 5 neat levels stacked up like a corporate PowerPoint slide. But here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Abraham Maslow never created that pyramid, never drew it, never even mentioned it in his papers. Let me tell you the story of one of psychology's greatest injustices. A story about how a brilliant scientist got screwed over by consultants, corporate trainers, and self-help gurus who turned his nuanced theory into a simplistic marketing tool. Abraham Maslow was born in 1908 in the suburbs of New York, son of Ukrainian immigrants fleeing the chaos of revolutionary Russia. He grew up in a tough environment, facing relentless anti-Semitic bullying as a Jewish kid in a rough neighborhood. But the real mind-bender? He saw the same prejudice at home. His own mother, who suffered discrimination herself, was openly racist toward black people. That paradox ate at young Maslow. It shaped everything he would later study about human nature, belonging, and motivation. Maslow wasn't your typical ivory tower academic. He studied with Harry Harlow, famous for the wire mother experiments. He hung out with Alfred Adler, Freud's former friend. He worked alongside Ruth Benedict, the renowned anthropologist, and Max Wertheimer, founder of Gestalt psychology. The guy was at every major intellectual party of the 20th century, soaking it all in, synthesizing ideas from biology, behaviorism, psychoanalysis, and anthropology. In 1941, something clicked. Maslow was sitting in his car outside a university when he saw young men in military uniforms who'd just enlisted for World War II, and he thought, why do people march off to war knowing they might die? What motivates human beings to do what they do? That question launched his entire career studying motivation. Here's what Maslow actually proposed. He identified different categories of human needs: physiological needs, like food and water, safety needs, the need for social connection and belonging, self-esteem, the need to feel competent, and finally, self-actualization, reaching your full potential. But listen carefully. He never said these were a strict hierarchy. He never said you had to complete level 1 before moving to level 2, like some video game. The closest he came to ranking them was comparing them to a ladder, and even then, he said you could skip rungs. Sometimes you jump from the bottom to the top. Context matters. The person matters. There's no rigid sequence. So where did the pyramid come from? Here's where it gets ugly. Maslow was a generous guy. He'd share ideas with anyone over coffee. One of those people was Douglas McGregor, a business professor who became one of the founders of organizational psychology and human resources as we know them today. McGregor loved Maslow's ideas and ran with them. In 1960, he published a book called The Human Side of Enterprise, and it's basically Maslow's concepts copied and pasted into corporate speak. Some sentences are almost identical, but Maslow was cool with it. Different field, different application, whatever. Then came the villain of our story, a guy named McDermott. In 1960, this dude published a book titled How Money Motivates Men. Yes, really. That's the actual title. McDermott took McGregor's ladder, which was already a simplification of Maslow's work, and turned it into a pyramid. He made it visual, hierarchical, and absolute. And that image went viral in the corporate world of the 1960s. It spread through business schools, management seminars, and training programs like wildfire. And whose name got slapped on it? Maslow's. Poor Maslow had no idea at first. He was off doing actual psychology research, studying humanistic psychology, focusing on human potential and positive qualities, rather than just symptoms and disorders. By the time he realized what was happening, the pyramid had taken on a life of its own. He tried to push back. He said, "That's not what I meant. That's not how motivation works." But it was too late. The pyramid was too catchy, too simple, too perfect for a PowerPoint slide. What makes this even more tragic is that Maslow was evolving his theory in ways that are shockingly relevant today. Late in his life, he developed what he called Theory Z. And this is where it gets really interesting for our modern world. Maslow argued that people can't pursue creativity and self-actualization if they're economically unstable. You need basic financial security before you can think about reaching your potential. Think about that for a second. This was the 1970s, and Maslow was already warning about what we now call the gig economy. He said that when you precariously employ people, when they're working 16-hour days for poverty wages with no job security, they fall into what he called work inertia. They can't even aspire to self-efficacy, let alone self-esteem or self-actualization. They're too busy surviving. Maslow put economic stability on the same foundational level as physiological needs. You can't be creative when you don't know if you can pay rent next month. When you're in that state of financial panic, your IQ effectively drops by 20 or 30 points because your mind is consumed by that anxiety. And here's the kicker. Maslow warned that economic inequality and work precarity would lead to authoritarianism. When people can't achieve self-realization, when they're stuck in survival mode, they stop thinking critically. They start following ready-made answers. They become susceptible to authoritarian thinking. He wrote this 60 years ago. Look around. Sound familiar? But wait, there's more injustice. Maslow also studied self-actualizing people. He did biographical analyses of highly accomplished individuals like Albert Einstein, Eleanor Roosevelt, and William James. He found they shared certain traits. They were reality-centered, problem-focused, comfortable with solitude, autonomous, resistant to cultural pressure, humble about knowledge, and had self-deprecating humor. Maslow thought maybe 5% of people had the natural disposition for this level of self-actualization, and he believed these people, if they reached positions of influence, could help ensure the basic needs of everyone else in society were met. But then, in the 1980s and 90s, a new wave of motivational speakers and corporate consultants took this research and bastardized it into what we now call positive psychology and the self-help industry. They said, everyone can be self-actualized. Your potential is unlimited. You just need to reprogram your mindset. They took Maslow's observation that 5% of people might have this trait and turned it into a mass market promise that anyone could achieve it with the right seminar or book purchase. Maslow would have hated this. He was arguing for systemic change, for economic justice, for creating conditions where more people could flourish. They turned it into just think positive and work harder. Even the famous quote often attributed to Maslow, "If the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail," became a joke at his expense. People called it Maslow's hammer as a way to mock his theory as overly simplistic. But the irony is brutal. The only tool people knew from his theory was that damn pyramid. They reduced his complex, evolving understanding of human motivation to a single simplistic image. Abraham Maslow died in 1970, before he could fully develop his theory Z and set the record straight about his misrepresented ideas. He was the 10th most cited psychologist of the 20th century. His actual contributions to humanistic psychology, motivation theory, and organizational behavior were profound. But he's remembered for something he never created. So the next time you see that pyramid in a presentation, remember, it's not Maslow's pyramid. It's a corporate consultant's fever dream from 1960. The real Maslow was far more interesting, far more nuanced, and far more relevant to our current economic moment than that tidy 5-level pyramid could ever capture. Maslow understood something we're only now rediscovering. You can't bootstrap your way to self-actualization when you're working 3 gigs to survive. Creativity requires security, potential requires stability, and human flourishing requires economic justice. That's the real legacy of Abraham Maslow. Not a pyramid, but a challenge.